Hello and welcome to a new video. I'll be riding along the River Road area in Cox's Park and then go through Indian Hills Trail, and starting out here on River Road on an e-bike. As you can see, this is a little bit of a treacherous drive since the road is full of potholes because you're just coming out of winter when there's a lot of snow and ice and salt everywhere. And when you're on a two-wheeled vehicle, some of those pretty deep potholes could be a pretty big problem if you actually hit them. So you have to be kind of on high alert in a lot of roads. And this is an e-bike. The mode that I have it in here tops out at 28 miles per hour, I believe. And the speedometer may not accurately reflect how fast it's actually going, but the speed limit on the road itself is 35 miles per hour. And nobody was really having the fact that I was going slower than that. And this is a road where on the weekends it's not an uncommon occurrence for a group of cyclists or groups of cyclists to ride along the area, going anywhere from like 15 to 25 miles per hour, maybe more if it's kind of a pro group. So there's people having to interact with that pretty frequently in that area. And I figured while I was in this area, I'd ride up here next to this, the water tower. And I think I'd come through here before on a video at nighttime. But I think because I went around this general area. But this was, during the daytime. And, it's the Louisville Water Tower Park. And, it's a pumping station on the Ohio River. And there's actually a waterworks museum that you can visit there. So you can look that up online if you're interested in going. But I was just riding along here. This is a weekend. This was on a Sunday. So, not a ton going on a Sunday here. But, I figured I'd ride through and see the river. Because the river was up quite a bit. It looked pretty rough. And it looked like it was up. The level of water was way up, and there was a lot of stuff that was still kind of flooded and incredibly muddy around the river, so I had to abandon a few different areas I thought about going through because it was just, some of them I would have been in neck-high water, and some it was just a mud pit. And I realized here that I had come in the wrong road on my bike. Luckily, there was nobody coming through because I think they were closed for the day. Because the point I came in from the bike trail, or not from like the pedestrian path, bike path, it was past the signs that said one way, so I did not realize that was one way until I started going down it. But nobody was coming through, so no harm, no foul. And there's a gas station up here, and an area that would be a lot nicer for a bike ride if there were bike paths that went the entire way. But from this part here, there are bike paths that go a little bit further down, and this is going towards Cox's Park. So Cox's Park is a kind of small park that has a boat launch ramp, and there's some amenities. You could go up there and do a cookout if you wanted to. Throw around a football or whatever you would want to do to park. And there's another small park across the street as well in the same general area. And there's some businesses down here that you can go to, and there's some restaurants. And I don't know if you saw a second ago, but there was a group of cyclists that were going through. This area is pretty popular for groups to ride through. Generally when I'm on this e-bike, any e-bike or scooter or anything like that, whenever there's a bike path, I always try to take it versus riding on the road, because it's much less nerve-wracking. It's you're not having people zooming past you, coming within inches, and people getting angry. And of course, if it was incredibly busy with people walking with small children and strollers and things like that, I'll probably take a different path. But when these are pretty much free and open, I'll always take a paved multi-use path over the road. And this is an e-bike. You know, this one's a little bit bigger and faster and louder than some. And you know, this is something too where when I've been out for rides, I've seen, you know, police officers or metro workers at some of the areas, and I've asked them, you know, what becomes the differentiating factor between being considered an e-bike versus an electric moped. No real answer. Basically, if it has pedals and it's electric, I've been told to treat it like an e-bike. But for this one, I put turn signals on it, rear view mirrors. It had a headlight and a tail light and a horn built in. So, you know, if anyone ever told me that you can't ride on the path, you have to ride it on the road, I would just treat it like a moped, I guess. Because doing 30 miles per hour or less, you qualify as a moped as well. So, but this is going through Cox's Park, and you'll be able to see here in a second. You know, there's a lot of areas that still have standing water, like over here to the left. And going up here ahead, you'll see there's plenty of standing water over here, and just, I guess that's kind of like a drainage ditch area, or just an area that typically gets standing water, because it's kind of at a slope. You know, because we've had snow and ice that melts, and I think a lot of times that leads to the river level being up this time of year. Yeah, and that looked pretty deep there, actually. Looks like the water got pretty deep in that area. But this is approaching the area where it's kind of like the covered, this little covered building and all the parking. And I know sometimes on the weekends, when I came up here before at nighttime, there were a number of people up here on motorcycles and stuff. It seems like this place could get a little bit rowdy on the weekends, because there's, you know, I guess people might say, oh, you're riding an electric dirt bike or whatever. There were people that had, like, you know, legit gas dirt bikes riding around, and tons of motorcycles and stuff. But, you know, during the daytime, in, you know, still winter, end of winter, beginning of spring, wasn't too busy. And you can see the river here. The water's so high, I wouldn't even, you know, it's so high right here, I wouldn't even try to launch a boat, because there's so much debris. There's obviously this big tree, this big branch, or, you know, tree trunk that's sitting here. You can see that the river looks pretty rough. Wouldn't really want to be out there on a small runabout or, you know, pontoon boat or anything like that. I'm sure the water is still incredibly cold, but you can ride up here and see, because, you know, this is the boat launch ramp usually goes down a little bit further, so the river's up pretty high, because you can usually go down quite a bit further. But there's all this debris. You can see where the water level was at some point. And again, you know, I had been to this park just by itself, like driving up here before, and I'd ridden a bike up here, you know, once. It was at nighttime, so I really didn't remember what all this looked like at daytime, because I hadn't been up here in years. I think the last time I had went through this park was going to Thunder over Louisville, which is, you know, if you're not from the area, it's a fireworks show that is kind of the opening to the Kentucky Derby Festival. So again, if you're not from the area, the Kentucky Derby you've likely heard of is a horse race that happens in the first Saturday of May. You know, it tends to be pretty popular. Most people have heard of the Derby. And the city of Louisville has a series of different events that lead up to the Derby to bring in, you know, tourism or just to celebrate things. There's a steamboat race. There's a hot air balloon race. There's a marathon, and there's a parade, and there's other events. But the first one, the thing that kicks it all off, is Thunder over Louisville, which is a fireworks show that happens on the Ohio River between Louisville and Jeffersonville and New Albany and Clarksville, Indiana. I guess you could see it from all three of those. It is funny because and you know, Louisville is Jefferson County, so the entire riverfront bank where you can see the fireworks from is within Louisville. But on the Indiana side, you go from Jeffersonville to New Albany, and then there's Clarksville. You know, it's all kind of close there with like multiple you know, city counties versus Louisville, where it's all Louisville. I think along the riverbank. Now there may be something I'm forgetting there, but yeah. So this was where the bike / running / walking / multi-use path ends, and I'm gonna cross the road here. And here we go across the road. There's actually a golf course over here too. And I actually had not really, you know, traversed much of this area in recent years. You know, mostly if I would go to the riverfront, it would be around the Big 4 pedestrian bridge, or, you know, around some of the other areas that are kind of more towards downtown Louisville. You know, because I used to work there downtown, so I'd walk around a lot. Don't anymore. You know, I went to different location at that point. So this memorial that's over here to the right is actually a very cool looking building, but this is the Patriots Peace Memorial. So it is a memorial that you can visit. You know, leave the bike here and walk over here and take a look. And it is a pavilion that pays tribute to local people that served in the armed forces who died during peacetime. So each of these, they'll remove a brick and replace it with the glass that has a name on it when somebody dies during peacetime. So this is a, you know, cool looking memorial that's in a nice, peaceful place that, you know, is honoring those who have served and lost their lives during peacetime, unfortunately. So, you know, just kind of an interesting looking building, and in an area that has, you know, a nice view because you can see the river, and then there's a little pond by it, and then there's a golf course. And I'm pretty sure that a number of local bands have shot promo photos in there, because at different times of day, as the light comes through the different glass sections, it can look pretty interesting. Now I'm going back over towards Indian Hills Trail, because there's a golf course and there's another park that's going in the opposite direction, but it looked pretty busy, and I didn't really want to interrupt anybody's time. And Indian Hills Trail actually has a speed limit of 25 miles per hour that seems to be pretty well enforced, and being on an e-bike that I don't want to be riding on a road where the speed limit is 35, I figured I would check this out. And I hadn't actually ridden anything through here, you know, or if I had, I couldn't remember. So, you know, this is 25 mile per hour road. So if you have an e-bike or e-vehicle, or even if you have a normal pedal bike, this seems like somewhere that could be fun to ride through. And it is interesting this time of year with all the trees being bare. There's a lot more sunlight coming through. It would be interesting to see what this looks like in the summer when you have all the trees and foliage green and full. And then, you know, of course, in the fall when the leaves have changed color, I bet this is a really interesting place to ride through. But, you know, I hadn't really been through this area before, so I figured I would ride through and give it a look and see what all was back here. And I really decided kind of spur of the moment to go through this area, so I did no research, and I was looking for side roads to go explore, and this said it was private for, I think it was for the golf course, like the country club or the golf club or the clubhouse or whatever. So it was a private drive, so nothing was going to be down this way, so, you know, go back to the main road and then see where I can go. And this was a pretty warm day. It was in the, high 50s, low 60s, so, somewhere between like 58 and 62, 3, kind of depending where you're at. Might be a little bit chillier because it was by the river. But still, a beautiful day, great day for riding something like this. Not too cold, just a, jacket, you're fine. And I'm also wearing I know before one of the videos I posted, somebody said, "You're wearing a full-face helmet on a bike, really?" But it's a Ruroc, actually a snowboarding helmet. That's not really full face. It just has a chin guard piece that clamps in. And then it has goggles that come with it. So when it's chilly out, 50, 60 degrees may seem to be pretty warm, but when you're doing, 20 miles per hour plus, it can be kind of chilly depending on, if you're in the shade or where you're at. And then just a second ago, there was one of those signs on the street that shows where it reads what your speed is. That gives you an example of where the speedometer and what it's actually doing are not completely accurate. Inflation level of the tires that are on it, my weight. There's a lot of things that can impact that, but basically I just know in the different modes or the different performance settings I'll use for the bike what the top speed is. And, I just kept riding down this road just to see where it went, because I know that the Indian Hills area is a relatively affluent neighborhood with nice homes and generally high, income levels of people that live there, and, high home values. But the speed limit being 25 miles per hour and seemingly being pretty tightly enforced made it seem kind of fun to be able to ride on the road without people running down your neck. And I was just kind of taking in the scenery because there's a lot of beautiful homes. This is the area I'd love to live in, because it's close enough to everything while still being kind of off the main road. So now we get kind of back into the neighborhoods, like the different, it's being less of a pass-through road and more going through residential neighborhoods. Again, hadn't really been through here before, and a lot of very large houses. I think something that when you ride an e-bike like this that maybe gives you a little bit more leeway with people going through areas without them getting annoyed is that it's so quiet. I mean, in these videos, it might sound a little bit loud, but it's because I'm wearing a GoPro. And in this case, I was wearing a GoPro. I wasn't using a chest mount or a helmet mount. I actually had a snap mount. And a snap mount, if you look it up, it's actually where you have kind of a lanyard that you can put around your neck that's adjustable, that has a little bracket that has magnets in it, and then there's a metal bracket that you mount your GoPro to. And in this case, I just had the lanyard and the bracket under my jacket that I then zipped up. And once I mounted the GoPro on the other side of the bracket, I snapped it in place on the outside of the jacket, and then I have a GoPro that's basically a chest mount, without having to wear the actual GoPro chest mount that tends to draw attention. So this is a less obtrusive, noticeable way that you can wear a GoPro and do the chest mount view, because I kind of prefer that to the helmet mount that kind of goes on the chin mount or the chin guard area of the helmet. Because then I feel like you can get whiplash. Even though the GoPros have pretty good stabilization, I feel like I can get kind of whiplash when I move my head back and forth when I'm looking to see where I'm going and things like that. As opposed to the chest view seems a little more stable because you're not moving as much. Get a nice wide view to see everything's going on. And the only downside is it does tilt down a little bit more. So that's why if you've seen past videos, you're seeing more of my knees in the bike, and you can see where the key plugs in, or the key goes in. as opposed to usually I think the view would be a little bit higher up. And that's just because, you know, once I have the GoPro, and this time I was using the GoPro Hero 8 with the media mod, and I'm just using the back microphone so that it gets less wind noise. And I don't have any external mic attached or anything. A lot of times I would just use that setup when I would record the audio while I was riding. And if I'm wearing one of my helmets that's not full face or that doesn't have the chin guard piece, I can do that and it'll sound fine. But I think that with the Rorock helmets that have the chin guard that blocks your mouth more, it usually sounds kind of muffled, and especially when it's windy, so I figure I would record the audio after the fact instead of narrating while I was riding. But having all, you know, like the media mod and all that stuff on the GoPro makes it a little bit heavier. So the snap mount under my jacket's tilted a little bit more forward than if it was on the chest strap, you know, that's nice and tight and doesn't move as much. But I think this is, again, it doesn't draw as much attention because I'm wearing a normal jacket and I don't have the chest guard that, like I said before in some of the videos I've said, you know, when you wear the chest mount, the GoPro one, the chesty, it almost looks like you have like a gun holster or something to some, you know, or people will pay attention to what you're doing, as opposed to this, you're wearing a normal jacket that just has a GoPro in the front and nobody really pays attention. And it, to me, it seemed pretty rock solid. You know, this wasn't going extreme off-road, you know, jumping ramps or hills or anything like that, but it never seemed to me like it moved around too much or was at risk of falling off. So, you know, that's a way that you can get a chest mount type view. And two, you can also use the bracket you put the GoPro on. It has magnets in it as well, so you can stick it to things magnetically. I know some people have stuck them on the hood of cars or other things and it worked. I haven't tried that yet, or seen people put them on the hood of their side-by-side, like the Polaris or whatever brand side-by-side off-road vehicles. But I figured this was a way that I could take my camera with me, not have it as obtrusive of a mount, and record some video if I wanted to. So I figured going through Indian Hills here would be worth checking out. So, you know, I went through there and I turned back around because there's a bunch of neighborhoods that, you know, kind of sprawl out from there. I wasn't 100% sure where they went because I said I didn't do any pre-research. I kind of decided at the spur of the moment to go through there. And I didn't want to go and spend forever getting lost and, you know, spending, you know, another hour going through all those back neighborhoods. And there's another one of those signs that checks your speed limit. It's solar powered. It seems like they're pretty intent on people doing less than 25 miles per hour. And then I did want to go through some of these side streets because I figured that this, if I had went through all the neighborhoods, it probably came out to here. I know the one street earlier I turned on may have gone through here, but I didn't know if it did or not. And I didn't want to waste a bunch of time going through all these neighborhoods. But, you know, doing filmmaking stuff, this seems like a road that would be really cool to shoot, you know, cars driving or something. Because it has all these, you know, no street lamps, no power lines running over it, trees on both sides, light coming through. Seems like it'd be a good view for something like that, something that would be entertaining to you know, or like a nice location to shoot. Because when you do filmmaking, a lot of times, you know, I've really been taking time to think about for the next project we do, you know, what takes it to the next level. And a lot of it is location, you know, interesting location. You know, people want to go and rent a Red or Arri Alexa camera like they use for, you know, Marvel movies or Netflix stuff. But having a solid location and any decent modern camera, you can get some knockout looking footage. So a lot of these bike rides also serve as me kind of surveying all of the areas around town that I might want to shoot outdoors or finding interesting locations. And again, I think this may, if I kept going up, loop back around to the neighborhood that I went through earlier on Indian Hills Trail, but I didn't feel like going all the way through there and going uphill and killing the battery because I was still a pretty good distance from home at this point, and I still have plenty of battery. but I just didn't want to aimlessly ride around not knowing where everything went. But yeah, so now this is heading back towards River Road, coming back through the way I came. I bet this road does look really cool in the fall when there's still leaves on the tree, but they've all changed color. It still looks cool here when it's, the end of winter and, spring will be coming relatively soon when the trees don't really have any leaves, but it's not cold and snowy anymore and cloudy every day. But this is definitely an area I'll come back to and ride through again at some point. So I definitely think that it's nice being able to go through these roads where it's a speed limit that's pretty strictly enforced, because, even in some of the residential neighborhoods by my house, there'll be speed bumps. The speed limit's 25 miles per hour. There'll be people parked on opposite sides of the road and spaced out where, you really have sections where you can only fit one car through, and people still will do 40 miles an hour just to get around you. You do 35 plus miles per hour easily. Because I've had people that, put you in pretty dangerous situations. So they just want to go a little bit faster to get to the stop sign, that they blow through and almost hit the person that's going on the other road. And two, when the speed limit's 25 miles per hour and there's somebody that's running on the road like that guy was, or somebody going on a, non-electric bicycle going a little bit slower, maybe doing 15 miles per hour, it's a little bit safer, a little bit less opportunity for catastrophic events. I mean, that can happen to any speed, but there aren't people zipping around, and you see there's like double lines, so there's no passing. So it seems like they really are intent on keeping those speeds slow. But I guess when you have a relatively nice, affluent area, that you can do that. And there were other neighborhoods that were over here, like over this bridge, that I'll probably try to come back through and explore at some point. I wasn't sure how much stuff was just kind of small neighborhoods that went to private drives or something like that. Because I didn't really want to waste too much time doing that. And it's very blue skies. Usually when I shoot these videos, I have the GoPros turned on full auto mode, just because, you never know what lighting conditions you're going to experience, and I don't want to sit there and mess around with setting all the, ISO level or, shutter speed and all that stuff. I usually just put it on auto, and it usually does a pretty good job. It's only really when you kind of transition from light to dark spaces that you get really blown out footage, like here. But it adapts pretty well and pretty quickly. There's still some standing water here too, so something where I think it had rained a few days earlier on this is Sunday. I think it rained on Thursday, but there also been snow that had melted finally. Because when it snows, a lot of times it takes weeks and temperature is well above freezing for it to actually fully melt off. But yeah, so now I'm approaching the end of Indian Hills Road where it intersects with River Road, and then it's the Ohio River right in front. So that was going through some of the River Road area by Cox's Park, and then down Indian Hills Trail. And that'll be it till next time.